There we go. Okay, welcome to the season in review show. On this show, we just talk about basic stuff about what happened in each season so we can get a comprehensive look at each season leading up to All-Stars. With me today, I have Alyssa, the winner of the Australian Outback, and Marcy, a very notable player of the Australian Outback. Would you guys like to
Hello.
introduce yourselves?
To meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, this is my first
ever
time I've
meeting.
ever talked to you.
Yes,
This is
I've
my first time I've
never
ever talked to you
seen
too.
Leafy.
You've never seen me? Well, I've never
No, I
seen either
never.
of you. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I've heard
Spectacular.
Marcy's this influential guy from like some server.
Yeah, we're like fossils in the Survivor server. We're some of the OGs.
You guys have been around a while. I mean, that's before I only joined the server from Arcasis and further, so you were there half seasons before I was.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, only one season before I was. There was only one season before
Oh
Marcasis.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
Don't.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Talking about the Australian Outback, what tribes did each of you start out on?
I was on Kucha.
You
And
were
I was on
Kucha?
Ogakor.
Ogakor. Now, Alyssa, about Ogakor, I hear a lot of memes about Ogakor.
Yes. Mostly
So-
pertaining Hugh.
Okay, so would you like to describe your tribe and what happened there? Just interesting people on Ogakor?
So my tribe was rather lively. We had Hugh, who decided he was making the impact as our leader of sorts. He made sure to
Okay.
talk to everyone. He wanted to play games. He wanted to voice chat. He wanted to be with us all throughout the way. Then we had Michael. He existed, but didn't say or do anything.
Okay.
We had Nathan, who existed. He didn't do much either. We had Ant-Man. He existed.
It seems like you have a lot of members who just exist.
Yeah, he was the only lively one. Everyone else was pretty quiet.
No, Uka was
He was-
nice.
Ogakor? What was Ogakor like, Marcy?
I'm on Kucha.
I meant like, what did you mean by how it was nice, rather?
Oh no, I just said Uka. Uka was someone that I met in the merge, and he was.
Olka
Like-
was the best. He was like my big brother figure.
Okay, so what's Oka like as like a player?
He's loud. He's not very discreet. He would always message me saying, "What's the plan? You know what needs to be done. We're voting this person."
That seems very ominous. I like the "you know what to do." I like that line. I feel like I have to use that in orgs myself.
He always said that before tribal.
I really want to use that now. Just message people, go, you know what to do.
And I don't think this pertains much anymore, but we had an alting issue before the season officially started.
Oh my god, yes.
Like it was on day one.
So originally we had two players that were not in the cast. So Sarcasm and Max were not originally in the cast. We had someone named Chu and someone named Yuli. And on day one, Chu got caught ulting. And so she had to get replaced. And on our tribe, Yuli's Discord got deleted and we could not get a hold of him or anything like that. So they got replaced. Sarcasm into our tribe and then Max into Ogakor.
Wow. How'd they catch on up before the season started? I feel like that takes very bad skill as an alter to get caught before you even alt.
So apparently, they were after Hugh because me and Hugh were bonding over dogs and we were sharing dog pictures. And all of a sudden, Hugh messages me saying, "Hey, do you want to talk about dogs?" And sends me so many dog pictures.
Right.
And
then
apparently, it was a red flag.
Yeah,
So
so then
the
after
host
that,
asked him.
May would talk in the general chat and lay out bait for her to do, saying oh, if Chu was smart, she would do this, blah 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 blah, and then instantly that she would go and do that, and so that they got caught out in that direction.
Interesting. Okay, so May would talk in like the world chat and then say stuff that was clearly, like you said, bait, false to try to get him to bite on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, wow. So that happened super early. So and then
Yeah.
who'd you say they were replaced with again?
Sarcasm got put into our tribe, and Max was in Ogre Core.
That's pretty impactful. Both those players made merge, right? Max at third
Yeah.
place,
Yes.
Yes.
Sarcasm third, fourth,
Yes.
fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. Wow, both of those are super impactful players then.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Uh, so the first challenge rolls around, right? And Ogakor won, correct?
That is
Yes.
correct.
And Kucha had an important decision to made. And when I'm looking at the voting chart right now, I see that one of the men, the myth, the legends, one of the icons was the first vote.
Yes, Jack. I think a better host in this server than he is a player, but I think he just got done unluckily. I enjoyed Jack. We were talking very early on, and I think just the numbers fell against him. I think me, Jack, and Teo, I believe, were somewhat together,
Okay.
and the other five fell on the other side. We wanted to get out Don because he didn't do much in the challenge at all, and wasn't really active ever. So we didn't really talk much to him. But the other five wanted Jack, and me and Teo ended up having to just concede and to save our skin because there was no point in risking your neck for the first vote once we realized the numbers were on the wrong side.
For sure, it's very hard to last long in the game if you're super adamant about the first vote. You sort of just got to go with the flow sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
So after the Jack vote, I see that Kucha wins 2 straight challenges. So
Mm-hmm.
Lissa, what's happening with your tribe at the second and third tribal council?
Second and third tribal council, sorry. We were dealing with some inactives. Some people were being inactive.
Okay.
And that's where Michael and Nathan came in. Michael literally didn't do anything, and he didn't talk to anyone. So that was an easy vote off for us at the time. And Nathan, he was online, but didn't do anything. Everyone else didn't do anything either, but they had their own reasons. Like I remember, who was it? I think it was Ethan. He said his mother was in a hospital, so that was understandable. Hugh was in another org, which was somewhat understandable. But Nathan was online. He didn't say anything or do anything.
Gotcha.
So
those
that
seem
was
like 2
a
pretty
somewhat
easy
easy
votes.
one. Yeah, somewhat. I remember Ant-Man wanted to take out Hugh at the third tribal. But I didn't want that because Hugh was actually good at challenges. And if we got rid of Hugh at that time, then we would have just went through a losing streak, and I did not need that.
Well,
So I
what I
flipped the
see,
votes,
yeah,
and
you
we
flipped the
took out
votes with you.
Nathan.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what I see is Hugh got a vote for each of those tribal councils. Michael actually self-voted in his, and Ethan voted for Hugh. And at the next tribal council, Ethan voted for Hugh again, and Nathan, who was going home, voted for Hugh. What was Hugh
Yes.
doing that attracted votes?
Do you really want me to say it?
I mean, is it important to understanding who he was during the season?
It's just how Hugh is
Hugh,
as a person.
Hugh is a very outspoken person.
I would agree.
The way he does things can be rather brash, and it makes people, such as myself, think he's overplaying. So I'm assuming everyone thought he was annoying, or that he would be a threat later on because of his challenges.
Gotcha.
But on my side, I was just annoyed with him, honestly.
Okay, that's a very valid reason. And also, we'll get to this part later, but from what I understand, the Australian Outback, both in the show and in the org, had a rule with ties in which you received votes in the pre-merge, correct?
Correct.
So
Yes.
so since that rule isn't around anymore, and I'm not sure how many people watch the show, what would you say is so what was the rule in the first place?
The rule is that on basis of a tie, they will revote. However, if the revote is then tied, instead of like rocks or a fire making or anything like that, it just goes back based on past votes. So the person with the most previous votes will then go home.
Interesting. So the votes for Hugh really did matter here, and Don and the previous tribal council for Kucha, because that meant if they went to a tie later, they would be in danger, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. So that's just because I know that's not in the show anymore because it's somewhat controversial, right? Because it means you have to avoid votes pretty much the whole game in order to not put yourself in a really bad position.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So after the Nathan vote, I see that then Kucha lost two straight eliminations. What happened there, Marcy?
My alliance got decimated. That's what happened. That you're gonna see a real trend in the pre-merge boots that I'm talking about, where I say I didn't really want them to go, and then they go, and I vote for them each time. Artemith and Teo were both like my two closest allies in the game. We did everything together. Me, Artemith, and Teo really wanted to do something about Sarcasm and Don because they were like the clearest duo that you will ever see in a game.
Gotcha.
So, but on day, I don't know what day it was, but for like the 13th boot, Artemith just went AFK for the entire like pre-portion of the vote. So we just couldn't do anything, and he was on the bottom somewhat. So then he ended up going home. The Teo vote was much more intricate. It was this. That was the time we were going to pull the trigger on. I believe it was going to be Don. So we pulled aside Danny and Chloe, and the idea was I told Teo, I was like, look, all right, this is what we need to do. We need to tell them that they're such a clear duo that they're not voting anywhere else, and that's too much of a problem for us to have. And what Teo then did was he created a chat, and instead of laying out the plan, he just said, hey guys, like, what are we thinking? Hi. And he didn't say anything. And then after that, Danny and Chloe went back to Don and Sarcasm and told them that was happening. And made Teo on their radar, and they wanted to vote Teo out. At this point, me and Chloe could have still voted for Don because he had the past vote.
Right.
And we talked about this, but Chloe said at the time she wanted to get rid of Teo, and I think it was more beneficial to my game to just be with like do a 5-1 vote out rather than like a 4-2 or a 3-3 going, especially going into a merge where tribe lines really like start heating up.
Yeah, you don't want to be, especially if you guys lost another challenge before the merge too. You didn't want to be a target, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I will say, I have a quick question. I see on the voting chart, Danny voted for Chloe both in the Artemith vote out and the Tile voted out.
Yep.
Why did Danny vote for Chloe twice?
Danny is an enigma. They do what they want. The whatever whatever way the wind's blowing. I don't know. I just don't think he liked Chloe very much, and just decided, nah, I've had enough, and I know where the vote's going, so I'm just going to throw a extra vote on here and see if it can cause panic. You've seen it happen with other games, but it didn't really happen here because everyone just thought Chloe was self-voting. So no one really knew.
That was a meme of its own.
I actually have heard of the Chloe self-vote meme. Why was it so believable that Chloe would self-vote? Is it that she didn't want to cause trouble, or was she not that active?
Oh, she's from New Zealand, so around my time zone.
Gotcha.
And in the middle of the day, she would be at school where she couldn't access her phone.
Exactly. Okay.
So it became more of a problem at the merge where she school started up again.
I do see where she self-voted. She self-voted 3 times during the merge. I do see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were all very impactful. as well.
Oh my God.
Holy cow, I see this, and we'll definitely get to that. Holy cow, these are impactful. Okay. This merge is going to be a fun thing to talk about. But right before the merge, we have Ogakor losing one last challenge, because of course.
Of course.
Lissa, what happened here? This seems like a pretty cut and dry vote.
It was fairly easy, honestly. Hugh had the numbers of me, Olga, and Max on his side. And he knew Ethan was trying to get him out. So it was fairly easy vote to get Ethan out, unfortunately.
Well, that easy vote did lead into the merge, and just looking at this, looking at the voting history is hilarious. I can see a lot of very impactful votes, to say the least. And I don't know what happened this season, so you're gonna have to fill me in for each of them. The first one looks very exciting. Episode 7, in which Olka won immunity. If you want to see the voting chart, I'm sharing it in the call right now if you want to see. But the first
Yeah.
vote went 5-5. What happened here?
This was just basic tribal lines. Each old ogre core voted for Chloe, and each old Kucha voted for Hugh. Hugh really
Yeah.
did one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in a Survivor game, and told myself and other members of Kucha that he had received past votes.
So this is where that rule comes into play from before, right? For receiving
Yes.
past votes and not being able to, you lose in a tie, right?
Yes, exactly. And I like there's a whole thing about it. If you ask May, she'll tell you about it because she thinks it's hilarious. Where I'm going crazy in my confessionals, thinking, like, oh man, Hugh's way too smart for that. Like, he's trying to bait us to put the votes on him so that like the other people can get, like, can be safe, and he can like try to take a shot at one of us. No, he was actually that was just a really bad move by him. I was giving him way too much credit.
Yes, meanwhile, I was going crazy in my confessionals, cursing him out. I was saying, why is this idiot doing this? They're all gonna vote for him. What the hell, Hugh?
So it seems like a lot of panic was happening because Hugh decided to talk about something that he definitely should not have talked about, right?
Yes.
I see that in a revote, instead of 5-5, it ended up being 7-3 with 2 people from the original Ogakor flipping.
Lissa being one of them.
Yes,
Lissa
I was
being
one
one
of
of them.
them.
Lissa and Max. Lissa, what influenced your decision to flip?
Well, for one, he was annoying.
Okay.
And secondly, I just didn't feel like we needed him there if he was going to do a dumb move like that. And at the time, I was already talking with Marcy. I really enjoyed talking with Marcy. And I thought if I flipped, I could possibly just gain his trust and maybe join him in an alliance in the long run and keep myself safe. And it worked.
Marcy, do you remember what you thought about Lissa at the time?
Oh, me and Lissa, we bonded straight away, but it was kind of strange. We like refused to talk strategy, I'd say, until the final 8 vote. Like we would talk to each other and then be like, we'd go to the vote and then we'd be like, oh yeah, we didn't talk about strategy because we didn't want to lie to each other, and then just carry on talking about our lives. So we just
We
like
bonded over soccer.
Over
Yeah,
soccer.
soccer.
What part about soccer?
Just
Oh,
that
we
it's
enjoy
the
the
best
sport.
sport.
Yes.
So,
Do you root for the same
and
team?
no,
No.
she's a Dortmund fan. I'm a Liverpool boy. Um,
Oh, a Liverpool boy.
But we respect both our favorite clubs. We
yeah,
like
exactly.
them both.
So it was just nice to have someone to talk to as a human. That's a really underrated part of orgs. I think that when you can like connect to someone as a person and as a human, you're gonna feel much more inclined to want to work with them as opposed to someone that's like, oh yes, guys, we're gonna do like a 4-3-2-1 vote, and we're gonna convince these guys to do this. It's not the same as just having someone that you just connect with on like a human personal level.
Exactly.
Right. I think one of the things that people take for granted when you play orgs is like you're often talking you and the other person are like you have these shields up when you're talking to them, right? And I think
Yeah.
So many of the most successful alliances are built between people who feel comfortable taking the shields down around each other, and what you guys described is just really wholesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So after the very impactful Hugh vote, I see that Chloe won immunity on the next episode, which meant that the Queen, which meant that she couldn't be voted for, even though she was voted for last tribal. And
Yep.
Ulko went home in a 6-3 vote, and Lissa was on the wrong side of this.
Sadly.
What happened here?
I'll take it, I guess, because I was on the right side. Honestly, he wasn't going to go home. It was going to be Max. Everyone was, I guess, a bit annoyed at Max for flipping. It really saved Lissa that everyone got mad at Max because they didn't realize that Lissa had flipped as well, I guess.
No, they did.
Either that or they just didn't care because apparently Max copped all the heat. And it was going to be just everyone was going to be it was going to be 8-1 on Max. Let's just move on and deal with the flipper. And then about 10 minutes before the vote, Chloe just goes, "Nah, I don't want that. Let's do Ulka." And everyone just goes, "Okay." And that was it. Everyone just votes for Ulka. And we later find out that Chloe and Max are really close and they're good friends, and that she was protecting her. But it just seemed like the weirdest thing that it was me and Danny were let's do Max, and then Chloe, Sarcasm, and Don were nah, Ulka. And then me and Danny were all right, whatever, let's just do Ulka. It doesn't matter. Other side of the alliance, either of them, it's fine for us. So let's just go with the numbers there.
Right. Okay.
And if I remember correctly, it had to do with a tribal question Alka answered, correct?
Yes.
Something about lions.
Yes. In the tribal council, they did the classic hyenas and lions question about whether it's good to take out the person who's over the top, obviously a threat, or someone that's going to sneak through.
Right.
And he answered it and saying, which I forgot exactly what he said, but the way that he answered it made Chloe go, "Oh yeah, this guy's actually a lot better than we all think he is. Let's vote him out." And everyone's just "Yeah, all right."
Those last minute votes are always sketchy.
Yeah, exactly, because who knows, and you can tell there that I think everyone really thought Max was going.
And I thought that too, honestly.
Okay. So every merge vote so far has been a ride one way or another. And then after the Ulka vote, we get to the Sarcasm vote. Episode 9, Chloe won immunity. 4-2-2.
This was the one.
This was the one. So I'm going to need a lot of explanation. What happened here?
Okay, so me and Danny had been brewing this up for a long time. This was mine and Teo's move that we had tried to make on the Artemis vote out. That's how long this has been brewing. Where it's so clear that Don and Sarcasm are a duo, and the way that Chloe took control of the last vote made it seem like those three were in power. So me and Danny were talking about how if we just let it get to 5, those three have it above us two. And we're in trouble. So we got to do something now before we get to that portion of the game. So we pulled aside Ant-Man and Lissa. It was originally supposed to be Ulka and Lissa, but because of the last-minute switch of the vote, we couldn't save Ulka. So we got Ant-Man on board instead. And we just talked about it. We're look, this is what we think needs to happen. And we felt that in their place where they were in the game, down 5-3 in the numbers, they didn't really have much bargaining room.
Right.
So we just thought that's the play. I don't know what it was like on Lissa's side, but that's what it felt like for us.
At the time, me and Ant-Man didn't have much options. It was just the two of us. So if it was going to be someone from that tribal line going, of course we were just going to join in. It was an easy option.
Right.
And then you see it's a 4-2-2 vote.
Yeah, 4-2-2. That's a crazy number to get to.
Yeah, well, everyone thought it was going to be Max, However, I think Chloe, because she was Max's friend, she was like, no, I don't want to vote for her. So she threw in a vote for Ant-Man to be like, like, see, I didn't even vote you out. And then she didn't even go home. There was no point to it. So it looked like crazier than I think it was.
Okay. Because I see that Lissa, Ant-Man, Chloe, and who's right here? Marcy. So you and Lissa were on the same side of the vote for the first time since Hugh.
It wasn't
Yes.
Chloe, it was Danny, by the way.
Danny, sorry.
Yeah.
Danny, correct. Who voted Sarcasm. We
Correct.
had Max and Chloe vote Ant-Man, and Sarcasm and Dawn vote Max.
Yep.
That is quite the eventful tribal.
And that's
Yes.
where it started, right after Tribal.
What
Oh my
happened after
God.
tribal?
Dawn wanted revenge. That's what happened.
How did Dawn plan on getting this revenge?
He tried to recruit me and Ant-Man to join him and Chloe in taking out Marcy. And at first, Ant-Man didn't want to do that because he had this loyalty enigma about him, I suppose. But I wanted to do it because I felt Marcy was going to get control after
Rude.
this. So I talked Ant-Man into joining with Dawn and Chloe. And we did it. Were we voting Marcy? Were we
No,
voting
you're
you,
voting
Marcy?
Danny. You're voting
We were
Danny.
voting
So
Danny.
this is episode 10. Marcy won immunity. It seems like a
Yes.
pretty important one with what's about to happen. With what was about to happen to Marcy.
Yes, it was originally going to be Marcy, but then it turned to Danny.
Marcy
So the
clutched
four
it
of us
out.
were going to do it.
Okay. So
And
this was
then, yeah. Go ahead.
So this was a
So then,
3 to 1 vote, and the
yes.
one vote is what I'd like to point out first and foremost.
Yes.
This starts Chloe had 3 self votes in a row. This was the
Yep.
first one. She was the one in a 3 to 1, meaning that she was the deciding vote and just didn't vote.
She didn't.
Yes. Correct.
Yes. Where was she planned to vote somewhere, or did she just really want to not vote here?
I just think she was at school.
What was the plan for her to vote? Like, whose alliance was she in? Who was she likely
She was
voting
with
for?
Dawn.
She was with them. Yeah.
She was
Danny
with
would have went
Dawn.
home if she voted.
That's crazy, because in the revote, it's a 5 to 1 to 1. Again, the only person not voting Dawn is Danny, and Chloe voting herself again.
Yeah. I'm
That's
not entirely
crazy
sure why you guys
impactful.
flipped back to voting Don. Can you give some insight into that?
Ant-Man got scared and he begged me to flip back. And I didn't have any options because either way, he was going to flip back and give you the numbers. So I thought it would be less harmful if I joined him, which was actually wrong, but that's how we did it.
Interesting. Okay, so so we've already had 2 revotes, which is insane. After this, we have episode 11 where Ant-Man wins immunity, and the vote here, the saddest one of the season,
Robbed.
The
again,
saddest one.
again decided by a self vote, and a 3 to 2 to 1 with 3 votes on Marcy, 2 votes on Lissa, and 1 vote on Chloe. Now, as someone who's didn't watch the season but is looking at the voting chart, knowing who won and who went home here, this vote seems incredibly impactful.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say Ant-Man shouldn't have won immunity.
Do you remember what the challenge was?
Yes, it was the archery type game that they make
Slingshot. The
Slingshot.
slingshot. Yes.
The
Okay.
Slingshot app. And I had to submit it at like 8 a.m. or something like that to get it in or whatever. And
Right.
I fell asleep in between screenshotting it and sending it in, and I sent it in about 30 seconds too late, and it was I had like the top score.
Oh my, that's gotta feel the worst.
Yeah, which is all right, but like it happens. I honestly have like a belief that if you need immunity and you need idols and stuff like that, you might not be playing the best game because you've put yourself at
You put
that.
yourself in a position to be voted out, right? So
Yeah,
you shouldn't.
exactly. You
Yeah,
you shouldn't need those unless you get to like final four where you need to win. Like otherwise, you're the obvious winner. Like obviously at the end, but like at like
I
final
have the same
six,
belief. Yeah.
I don't think you should need it. So I didn't really care too much. Me and Lissa pretty much straight up told each other, we're like, I think you're gonna win, and she's like, yeah, I think you're gonna win, so I'm gonna try and vote you out now. And she's like, yeah, I'm gonna try and vote you out now too. All right, cool.
That's how it went, actually.
So you each rallied your armies.
Yep.
Marcy rallied Danny,
Yeah, me
right?
and Danny had it.
Yep. And Alyssa rallied Ant-Man and Max. So where does Chloe fit into this? Because she self-voted and she could have forced the tie by voting Lissa.
I don't know. I think she was
It's
just
a fun story, actually, because I went to Chloe before going to Max. Because
Okay.
Ant-Man sort of had this thing against her because of the flipping. But Chloe was inactive. She wasn't answering at all. So I went to Max. Me and Ant-Man apologized to her, and we asked if she would vote with us to take out Marcy. And she agreed. And that's how it happened.
Can I also mention that there was like a big misconception that happened where once the Hugh vote happened, there was an OG Ogre Core alliance that got deleted because one of the members was voted out, and Max took it as they had kicked her out of the alliance because she flipped. Which is a big reason why she was very keen on like going against them.
Oh, that's big.
I didn't even know that until later, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, so that like reconciliation, it didn't even need to happen, but it was all like because of a misconception.
Okay, that's super important. That just shows how like the smallest things can really have huge impacts like that. I would have never even thought of that from like another perspective. Holy cow.
Yeah.
So
I was just gonna say this last vote, I like if I didn't have such tunnel vision, I think I really got like honed in on the prize of like winning, and it was like I need Lissa out because she's the one that can beat me, rather than how do I get to the next vote, because we all knew that Chloe was going to self vote. Everybody knew that. So if me and Danny had switched it up and voted Chloe, because of her past votes, she would have gone home, and it would have been just another day in the game, which is essentially what you need, rather than try to win at final six, which is like an issue that some people have where they get tunnel vision and hone in on the prize and get sniped before they can even get there.
Exactly. I was just about to ask what you could do differently, and you answered that perfectly. Wait, so if you have votes on you in the past, doesn't it go to a revote first? Because that's what happened in the Hugh vote.
Oh, yeah.
In the Hugh vote, it was 5-5, Chloe, Hugh. Hugh had 3 votes previously. Chloe had 2. They went to a revote when Hugh went home. Is it just having votes in general, or does the amount of votes matter?
You're right. It's probably that. So I probably would have gone home anyway.
Okay. But do you think, besides Chloe, was there anyone else you could have rallied? Maybe you could have had Max vote for? Because it sounds like Ant-Man and Lissa were super tight. So do you think there was a vote that you could have had Max be on board for?
I think that I was doomed when Don went home. I would have preferred actually Danny going home, because it would have given Don some semblance of revenge, and we could have maybe picked it up from there, because a big reason why Danny and me had to get split up is because we were a very obvious pair at this point. So if we got split up, it might have given myself a little bit more room to work with, but the fact that Don went home there and it just solidified us as a pair, I think I was doomed from that vote.
Gotcha. I'm trying to think. So yeah, were you the last Australian left in the season at this point?
I was the only Australian.
You're the
He
only
was
Australian.
the only Australian.
So unfortunately, you could not rep the season.
No.
Unfortunately,
Chloe's still there from New Zealand, which is close enough.
Close enough, right? So we still have one somewhat Australian candidate, but the main Australian candidate falls at 6th. Spoiler alert, episode 12. We're going to see a common theme in who wins immunity for the rest of this game. Lissa wins immunity in episode 12. Chloe goes home in a 3-2 vote. Interestingly, she did not self-vote this vote. This was a
Might I
straight-up
add
vote.
something?
Go for it.
The host at the time was getting so frustrated that Chloe was self-voting and that she was inactive. He went to the tribe chat and he asked if we still wanted to do tribal or if we just wanted to choose to have Chloe go home because her time zone was just not working.
That's super direct.
And
And
so
she replied,
yes, we replied. Like Max
what'd you
was like,
reply?
she's my girl, but I wouldn't mind her going home. And Danny was like, yeah, she can go home. And Ant-Man joined in. I thought it was awkward because before I could answer, Chloe types. She says, I'm still here, guys. And Danny goes, oh, hey, Chloe.
That seems very awkward.
It was very awkward, but she was there, so Tribal went. But we still chose to take her out because to me, it felt like Danny deserved to be there another day over someone who is rarely there.
Can I ask, because I'm out of the game at this point, so I didn't see any of this. Because Max and Chloe were so tight, did you ever feel concerned that she would flip?
Yes, I
Max?
did.
And how did you navigate that?
Chloe told us when we were going to vote with you, she said she was close with Chloe. So I felt that she was more close with Chloe. So I needed to step up and try to win immunities. Because in the past, I wasn't trying as hard because I didn't want to end up like Olka at the time. And I think that strategy worked because no one expected me to win three immunities in a row. Not even myself, honestly.
Wow. Okay, so like Lissa said, she does continue to just run out the game and win immunities. Episode 13, Lissa wins immunity. Danny goes home in a 3-1 vote. Is this just pretty straightforward at this point?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay, and I will say, with the Danny vote, Kucha has been obliterated.
Yeah, we threw away a 5-3 lead.
You did throw away a 5-3 lead. I wasn't gonna say it quite like that, but you said it perfectly.
Yes.
After the Olka vote, it was 5-3 in terms of Kucha, and Kucha went home back to back to back until there were none left.
Yep. Devastating.
Okay. It does seem devastating in terms of numbers, especially with how hectic each vote was. Like, by no means did this seem like a simple decimation of Kucha.
It was a wild ride. Every single vote was unpredictable.
Just looking at the numbers, it must have been so much fun to watch and experience. Well, stressful as an experience too, as a player to experience.
It was pretty stressful, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially for Lissa, she missed. I know she missed my tribal. She didn't get to say bye to me. I don't know how she was with other tribals because her time zone was getting. Whilst mine was like I had to have to wake up early, she would have to stay up late in order to do the stuff.
I accidentally fell asleep during his tribal, so
oh no,
I couldn't say goodbye to him properly.
Devastating.
Which was sad because I had that respect to him and he had that respect to me.
It sounds like then in future seasons, like All Stars and moving forwards, this 24-hour window, which we're transitioning to, sounds much better for players like you two who aren't in American time zones, right?
Yes. Oh my god.
Much better. Please.
We talked about this a little bit in World Chat, but the 24-hour system which Garrett had was a Garrett thing, and we're trying to make this server into our own little place. And I think because we have such a wide range of people that play, we should respect that with the 24-hour system that we're going into. And I'm glad it sounds like there shouldn't be any more mystery unions between people like Marcy and Lissa.
Yeah.
Yes, and it helps because school's starting for a lot of people too.
Right.
And they should focus on the schoolwork as well on the side.
You should focus on your school unless you're in a bad position. Got it.
I did not say that. But okay.
Got it. Understood.
My,
Lissa gave you permission to not do your homework if you're getting votes.
That's true.
I am
wouldn't
a
do my-
teacher in training, so go
So
I
for
am
wouldn't
it.
do my
I.
homework anyway.
I'm not doing
What I
my
will
homework anyways too. Up top, Marcy.
what I will say about the 12-hour system is that it did make it feel somewhat more authentic about
Right.
Survivor, where like you finish your challenge, you go back to the tribe beach, and you have a couple hours to decide who to vote. Then you go and decide. Whereas the 24-hour system can give a lot of room for wiggle room for people to like maneuver and that. And I don't know, it just felt very like Survivor authentic when I played this, because it was like bang challenge, bang back to beach, bang tribal. All
I
right.
feel the same way. I know what you're talking about, and I think during the summer, which is when I played Marquesas, it worked really well because most people didn't have class for those who were in school. Most of us were American during that season, so like it felt pretty easy for us to get into it, but I could see where the difficulties arise, especially with you two who are in drastically different time zones.
Exactly. Also with
Mhm.
isolation starting to end.
Exactly. So I think that while it was cool and it worked, I think it's a niche thing that works. You have to be sort of in the same time zone. Commitments have to
Yeah.
be low for the people that are playing. So while that's cool, I think it's nice, especially with the world we're transitioning into, to get into this 24-hour system.
Yep.
Awesome. So after the Danny vote, it looked like Lissa just sort of took over here. Episode 14, Lissa wins immunity again, and Max goes home. What was your decision in sending Max home over Ant-Man, Lissa?
While some people would say it would be an easy choice to pick Max because she may have had a bit of journey and she may not have done much, I chose to have Ant-Man by my side because when I flipped, I came clean to him and I promised him that I was with him every step of the way and that if we made it to the end, it would be us two. And I wanted to honor that.
That sounds super honorable.
I can vouch for that. On the vote where we were targeting each other, I came up with a mutual beneficial plan that if the vote is between me and her, then if we like go to vote Ant-Man, this is before he wins immunity. If we try to vote Ant-Man, it keeps us both safe for another week. And then I said, like, if we can do Ant-Man, then I promise I'll do Danny next, and we can like move forward from there. And she just said, no, I'm not turning on Ant-Man again.
That sounds really sweet.
And he was honestly the only ally I trusted, so if I lost him, I would be alone. So I didn't see how it would benefit me either.
Okay. So after that, final tribal council
Oh
happens.
dear.
Lissa is the only person in the org's history to win in a unanimous vote. I'm correct there, right? She didn't have any
No,
votes against her.
Joey just won.
Joey just
Yeah,
won.
he
Correct. Yeah.
just tied it.
Pearl Island. So we only have two people who have won unanimously, and Lissa was the first and foremost queen to do that. Lissa, what was your plan going in the final tribal council?
If I'm honest, I didn't have one.
Okay.
Because right after the final immunity challenge, we had to write a speech. And then we went straight into the final tribal council. And with my time zone, it was already late. It was already becoming morning. I had no sleep. I was just answering questions as best as I could in my tired state. And apparently it worked, despite me being disoriented and tired.
Before going in the final tribal, what would you have said the final score would have been and who the winner would have been? Objectively and honestly speaking, how at that point do you remember what you were thinking?
I thought I deserved it more than Atman because I felt that I put myself out there. I was more willing to put risk into our games to further ourselves up there, and I did. But he was still a wonderful ally to have.
What do you think the final vote would have been? At that
He
point, if
had,
he did deserve it more, do you think he would have gotten votes? Or were you
I
expecting
think
a 7-0?
I wasn't expecting a 7-0. He made a very nice video confessional, and I thought just that alone and me with my many typos in my speech, I thought he
Gotcha.
would have received a few votes. I think I still would have won, not to be arrogant, but I think he would have had like 2, maybe 3 votes.
Okay. So
I
you
think
thought
from
it
a
was going to
jury's
be
perspective,
2-5, sorry, yeah, 2-5-3-4 type of thing?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yes, Ant-Man?
um,
Not Ant-Man, sorry, I'm
oh,
tired, Marcy.
oh, um, I'll just jump in with a jury perspective. A lot of people respected Lissa a lot from the jury. They all saw her as the leader. Um, what a lot of people would compare it to would be like Marcy and Lissa would be like the leader of the duo, and then Danny and Ant-Man would be the sidekick. So, coming into the tribal council, we wanted to figure out how Ant-Man could defend himself against those claims. And whilst he did make a I think Ant Man actually had a decent chance going into Final Tribal Council, despite being the sidekick. But despite even with his video that was really nice, he just hammered in all the wrong points. He didn't. He affirmed that he was a sidekick, and he said that the reason why this happened is because he's loyal, which doesn't really appeal to much people, especially you can be loyal, but if you haven't done anything, then it doesn't really matter. And I think his real nail in the coffin was he said that if he had won final immunity, he would have still taken Lissa to the final, which just didn't make sense to anybody, and I think it turned a lot of people off what he was trying to say.
Interesting. So what I find the most interesting from what you said is that Ant-Man definitely had a chance. And I don't mean that in a way where it's like he shouldn't have had a chance, but it's for the jury, you were saying that Ant-Man was a very valid candidate if he did these specific arguments, right?
Yeah, if he had a good, it wasn't a set in stone. I think if Lissa had taken Max to the final tribal council is done before it starts. But with Ant Man, it really came down to Lissa was in the driver's seat, but if Lissa bombed and Ant Man had an absolute banger of a speech and stuff, then he could have easily taken it.
Interesting. Okay, so the 7-0 result was more of a reflection of Final Tribal with Lissa doing well and Ant-Man doing not well as
Yeah,
compared to things going into it.
I wouldn't even say that Lissa did particularly well. She was very adequate at everything, but there was no real moments where people were like, "Wow, that's a good answer." Damn, she really deserves the win. It was just oh yeah, that's what we expected.
That's
But a lot
honestly
of
fair.
but things that Ant Man would say, it surprised the hell out of us because it's damn, that's just not it. And so I think it was more of a poor showing from Ant Man rather than a excellent showing from Lissa.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. And that's the Australian Outback. Before I let you guys go, I have a few questions about the season. Is that okay?
Lovely.
What would you say is your most memorable moment of the season for each of you?
You start, Lissa.
Marriage, definitely. When me and Masi connected and we made that alliance with Oka and Danny. I think that was the starting point for what made the season so exciting.
Yeah. And to
Okay.
piggyback off that, when we finally pulled the trigger on sarcasm, I don't think any of the 4 people that weren't part of it had any idea that it was happening. It was just kept under wraps really well, and when it happened, you could tell by Chloe's throwaway vote and stuff like that, they really had no clue, and it was just exciting to be a part of that because it was finally I felt it was my time to shine, and I'd been, especially in the pre-merge, I'd been throwing away allies after allies, just trying to wait for a good time to strike, and it just felt really good to finally be the head of something for once. It was really, really good.
I can totally see where you're coming from. And we talked about this a little bit earlier for Marcy, but for both of you, what's something that would you say did you learn something from this experience?
Is this me?
Both of you, yeah.
That was
Sorry.
both of us. I'm just thinking.
Okay, I was gonna say that if anyone had followed me the next season into Lock Viva that I played, you would see that this season had really like shaped how I played the next one. What a real big issue that I had here was that I took control too early. I at final 8, I really like made a claim, and it was clear that I was like on the top, I guess, of
You were in the
like
driver's seat, yeah.
yeah. Like Lissa was there, but like she had to get on board because it was my plan because she was down 5-3 numbers, right? So the problem was that I did it far too early because if you expose yourself that early, then you would need to go on the most crazy immunity run ever
Right.
to do that. So I just learned that if I was to make a blindside or do anything like that, I would need more shields or at least a few more to continue carrying um, myself as less of a target. That was the big thing that I learned. Not to pull the trigger too early for the sake of it.
And it seems like you really did learn your lesson with your performance in Lock Fiber. You
Oh,
definitely,
still
definitely
robbed.
still robbed nonetheless, but you definitely, it seems like you executed that playstyle much better. Would you
Yes,
agree?
correct. Yes, if
Awesome.
I didn't Ant-Man the final tribal, I think I would have won.
Awesome. Okay. Official new term for Final Tribal, Ant-Man. Okay. Alyssa, how about you? What's something that you learned from your experience playing?
So this org was my very first org that I've ever played in. I've never watched Survivor. I came in here from my brother Delta asking because the host at the time, he wanted more females in there. And I had nothing better to do, so I agreed. But something I did learn from this is to be a bit more social. I really only talk to Mossy, Danny, Ant-Man, and the people from my tribe. And while I still got the jury votes of Dawn and Chloe and Sarcasm, I feel like I could have done a better job at connecting with them. And I'm going to take that lesson that I learned into future orgs that I decide to join in.
Awesome. Final question for each of you. What would you say to players who haven't played in this org or who have and might be returning in a future season? What advice would you give them that you learned either from this season or just from watching and spectating this org in general?
Don't
Connect
pull
on
a
a
Mossy.
oh
Don't pull
yeah,
a
yeah,
Marcy
whatever.
Alyssa. So what is
Yeah,
Alyssa? So what does that
yeah,
mean?
whatever.
I'm joking.
She's not
um,
joking.
she's not. I wouldn't pull a Marcy either.
I wouldn't
But
pull a
I
Marcy
would
either.
say just try to be relatable, personal level. If you talk to someone and you develop a connection, it will go very far. It doesn't matter if you don't want to talk to them or whatever. This is a game of like at the heart of it, it's a game of deceit. So even if you don't feel like it, whatever, be bubbly, be outgoing. No one wants to talk to a dry person that gives one word responses. But if you go out there and you talk and you ask questions and you like get to know each other's lives, it really pays dividends down the track when you need each other for ally votes and they like you.
Awesome.
I agree
Alyssa,
with that.
besides pulling a Marcy Alyssa, is that what you say is important for new and returning players?
I would say to be as social as you possibly can, even if you're rather shy. Being social, you get to connect with people, as Mossy explained, and because sometimes people perceive you're not really interested in playing the game and they would rather vote you out to have people who they are social with, who they do feel a connection with.
Those are great tips. Those are definitely things that, especially in this org's history, you see get people far. You see, especially in this org's history, you see social people do very well. Would you guys agree?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, in
We
future seasons, players like Joey, Gummy, uh,
Scooby.
Scooby, you see them, social players just dominate their seasons. So I think that is great advice.
Yeah, I would say that a big portion of the strategic winners that come through on Real Survivor, a big factor to that is the like lack of sleep and lack of food and all that sort of stuff that weighs down on your mind. Whereas with like 24-hour blocks coming up and people not being deprived of anything, there's a lot more level-headedness and a lot more room to catch someone out if they're being ridiculously sneaky. So you've got to do it in bursts, but focus on your social side.
Right. And I think one of the things that's super important is that you need a social game to have a good strategic game. Like, nobody's going to follow. If you have the perfect strategy, it doesn't matter if nobody trusts you enough to execute it. The social game is what puts your foot in the door to make moves.
You can talk to Hugh about that. He has I'm being serious, he wrote like 5 pages of notes.
Oh, I know. I've seen them.
Yeah.
I've had.
Hugh has shown me.
So
Can you show me? He refuses to show me.
I still have them. Yes.
Please show me.
I'll ask if I'm allowed to. I think he might kill me.
Let him.
So if there isn't a next episode, it's because he has killed me. But besides that, did you guys have any final closing thoughts before we end it?
12th place gang is overrated.
I would like to say first and foremost that is incorrect. The 12th place gang is the ruling class of the server. As you can see, whenever someone leaves the server, whenever someone leaves the server, 12th place gang escorts them from the premise. And I will say the winner circle out of all the special chats is the least talked in.
It is.
As a member of production who can see all of them, that is the least popular one. And as I say that now, I'm guessing Liz is going to type there something soon to try to prove me wrong. But 12th place gang talks every day.
Who talks every day?
12th place gang. Marcy can back me up on this there. While they may be slightly overhyped, they do talk quite frequently.
Oh, well, they're very passionate. I can't see it anymore because I got removed as a host. But
right, we're banning Marcy from the server, right?
It happens.
It happens.
Oh, that's a shame.
It's a big shame, right? Now, who's going to pull a Marcy if Marcy's not here?
Exactly. We'll need someone new to be outspoken and overplaying.
Right. At least we have a name to remember you by.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Lissa, Marcy, thank you guys so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it.